The Two Faces of January, which is directed by Hossein Amini. I think it's his first his directorial debut. He's a writer. Adapted from the Patricia Highsmith source from 1964. So, Viggo Mortensen and Kirsten Dunst are the McFarlanes, who are these sort of very well-to-do types holidaying in Greece. Oscar Isaac, you remember Oscar Isaac from
Inside
Llewyn Davis.
I do.
It is
Llewyn Davis, and he sings, and he's miserable for a couple of hours.
Yeah, so he is this sort of very discontented American tour guide who is taking people around the sites, and whilst he's taking them around, he's essentially sort of ripping them off. So you see him going to a market, he asks somebody, because he's multilingual, he asks somebody what the price of something is, they give him a price, he tells the Americans a different price. So he's basically sort of a low-level scammer. He falls in with Viggo Mortensen and Kirsten Dunst's character, the McFarlanes, and your assumption from the beginning is that he must be out for something in a kind of talented Mr. Ripley kind of way. Here's a clip.
So Colette tells me you went to Yale.
Yes, sir.
What'd you major in?
Economics.
Good training for a tour guide.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the plan initially. My father had a job lined up at a friend's law firm,
And you ran away as fast as you could.
something like that. What do you do for a living, sir?
Call me Chester. I look after people's savings, mostly low-risk investments.
You must be doing pretty well, though, if you're staying at the Grand.
Honey, look at this. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Sure is.
Actually, this is a Cretan design. You see how the snakes come together and never end? That represents immortality. People wear it as a protection charm.
You like it, hon?
I love it.
Let's get it then.
So what happens is that the three of them become the sort of, an unlikely trio. And then something from Viggo Mortensen's, McFarlane's past turns up, which causes violent disruption, at which point the Oscar Isaac character steps in and says, I will stand by you. And the question is he standing by them for financial gain? Is he standing by them because he thinks that actually they're the kind of people that could get him the sort of things that he wants when he goes back to America?
I don't know. What's the answer?
Or is he standing by them because actually he's got the hots for Colette, which is this sort of underlying sort of broiling tension? So the other thing is, no, I know you don't know. And I'm saying the movie raises these things and you don't know. And actually one of the reasons that it works as well as it does is that you don't know and you're not sure. Firstly, you're not sure of his motives, whether his motives are financial or emotional or something slightly more feral. More importantly, you don't trust either of them either, because when you're first introduced to them, they seem to be there's something about them which is slightly disreputable, but as the narrative moves forward, you discover that there are murkier and murkier parts of their lives, and in fact what happens is between the three of them, they all start to descend into this kind of purgatorial hell of their own making. The film is nicely done, if in the end, I think somewhat more to do with surface than it is to do with content. I mean, it's very well played. Each of the three characters plays their role in a way which is ambiguous enough that exactly the question that you're asking, just as I was setting it up, is, what are their motivations? That is actually the key to it. There is this sort of sense of broiling duplicity about all of them, which anyone who's familiar with Patricia Highsmith will understand. It does nod quite a lot towards the Anthony Minghella version of Talented Mr. Ripley. And actually, in comparison with that, it sort of starts to look a little bit like, okay, well, it's to do with surface. I mean, the scenery is absolutely beautiful, although, frankly, you end up looking more at the three central characters, who are all also very, very handsomely dressed, even though their faces are often hidden by, sunglasses and hats and, sort of well-chosen accoutrements. You still find yourself looking more at their faces than you do at the scenery around them. It is very handsomely put together. It's very old-fashioned. It has the kind of... You remember we were talking about...
In a good way.
Well, I think so. I don't mean old-fashioned in a bad way. I mean, I mean that it has that sort of old-fashioned rhythm of a film to it. It doesn't feel, like it has... desperate modernity about it. It doesn't feel like it's trying to, make something particularly now and of them. It sort of feels like an older movie than it is. And that works both to its credit and to its disadvantage. I mean, to its credit, it means that it has a style, it has a classic style, both in terms of the clothes and everything about it. The disadvantage of it is that in the end, you think, well, it's not anything that I haven't seen before, and it's. I don't think it has a massive amount of depth to it. But whilst you're watching it, it is a very pleasurable watch. One thing which is interesting: the BBFC note in their the thing about why we've given it this certificate, I think it's a 12, is that there are scenes of smoking, and boy, you have never seen more smoking in a movie. There is a moment in which Viggo Mortensen appears to fall asleep with a cigarette in his mouth and carries on smoking it, and not a line of dialogue goes by without sort of...
Is there a reason for that?
Well, it's a period thing, isn't it? People did used to smoke an awful lot more, and it is
yeah.
weird. Yes, exactly like in Mad Men. It is weird how when you have a film now with a period setting, the thing which seems most jarring about it is the amount of smoking that just goes on, because the world has changed profoundly.
Funny, if you smoke and drink whiskey all day, you die when you're 56. I mean, that's
very unusual. I watched Withnail and I the other day, and of course, Richard E. Grant, who famously doesn't smoke and doesn't drink either. But, they were doing sort of herbal cigarettes to him. But anyway, there is a huge amount of smoking, so much so that the BBFC felt the need to point it out in the classification guidelines. So very handsome, very well played, enjoyable, not a whole amount more than that, and certainly not comparable in terms of lasting quality with Anthony Minghella as talented Mr. Ripley.